Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day-to-day lives. Let's start with the video. I, 29 female, have been married to my husband, 30 male, for 4 years. We've lived together for 6 years now, since we started dating, and I've always thought we have a perfectly normal and healthy relationship. My husband is close to my family. My friends love him. And overall, we've never had any major relationship problems. I've never had any reason to doubt his loyalty or love either. So what happened recently has left me pretty shaken up, to say the least. Let me tell you about my best friend now. We met in college and lived together for almost the entirety of our college life. After college, we continued to live together for a year or so before I had to move out for work, as the commute was becoming too difficult to manage. Even after that, we remained very close and saw each other at least once a week. As you can probably tell, it was a solid friendship. She was the maid of honor at my wedding, too. She also visited my hometown with me nearly every holiday, as she was not really close with her family, and my parents started seeing her as a second daughter. When my mom unexpectedly passed away 5 months ago, she supported me through everything I went through. I don't know how she could do what she did after all these years of friendship, but I guess people can change. If only I had known what was coming in the future back then. My husband and my best friend obviously know each other, and the three of us hang out often. I never saw any reason to be suspicious of them. In fact, the thought never even crossed my mind. I always assumed they sort of see each other like some sort of siblings. Boy, was I wrong. But let's circle back to that later. As I've said already, my mom passed away a few months ago. This has been obviously difficult for my dad, but he has taken it like a champ. I try to visit him as much as possible, but he lives around 5 hours away, and between the distance and my work, I can't really visit him as much as I would like to. My dad had also been acting weird for a while, asking me if I was doing fine and saying I can tell him anything. I thought he was concerned about how I was dealing with my mom's death because we were very close, and her death has been a huge blow to me. My husband recently went on a work trip. Coincidentally, my office shut down for 3 days for some maintenance and security checks, and we were supposed to work from home. I thought this was the perfect time to surprise my dad with a visit. I left in a hurry and called my husband to let him know I'll be visiting my dad, but he didn't pick up. I assumed he was busy with work and would call me soon. After 5 hours of driving, I finally reached my dad's place. Imagine my surprise when I saw my husband's car parked in the driveway. He was supposed to be nowhere near this place, so it wasn't possible that he was dropping by on the way. And even if he did, he would have definitely told me. I couldn't figure out what was going on as I rang the doorbell. My dad opened the door and was really surprised to see me. He hugged me and asked if what he had heard was true. I said I didn't know what he was talking about, and before he could answer, I saw my husband behind my dad. He looked like he was in total shock. Before any of us could see anything, my best friend emerged from the living room asking what was keeping them both. When she saw me, she literally stopped speaking mid-sentence. My dad finally broke the silence. He said that if what he had heard was true, he would be very disappointed in me. I asked him what he meant and what my husband and best friend were doing here without telling me. Before my dad could say anything, my husband turned to me and said that he could explain and that he needed to talk to me alone. I was so confused at that moment, I snapped at him and said that whatever needs to be said will be said in front of everyone. Clearly, they were comfortable having a conversation with my dad without me. Dad asked us all to have a seat at the very least, and I just followed him to the living room mechanically. My best friend was silent the whole time. After a very uncomfortable silence in the living room, my dad told me that he knows about my problem. What problem? What on earth was even going on? I said as much, and he told me there's no point in hiding and that my husband and best friend had told him everything. Even more confused than before, I demanded an explanation from my husband. He again told me that he could explain everything if I just talked to him alone. My dad then intervened and said that my best friend and husband had shown up this morning and told my dad that I had been drinking a lot. They went as far as to say that I was getting verbally abusive and buying more and more expensive bottles of wine and wouldn't let anyone stop me. This was an absolute shock to me. I mean, I do have the occasional wine now and then, but in no way do I have a drinking problem. The part about being verbally abusive and overspending was even more absurd than my alleged drinking problem. I obviously started denying everything and asked my husband and best friend what the hell was going on. What I found out has officially turned my life upside down. My husband told me he'll explain everything if I just went back home with him, but I demanded an explanation right there. That's how I found out that the two people I loved most in the world were trying to cheat me out of my mom's inheritance by trying to convince my dad I was an alcoholic with a shopping problem. My best friend is a lawyer. I scanned the document she had built up to steal my inheritance, wrote an email about everything that had happened, and sent it to her workplace. She didn't have the guts to confront me, but my husband called me up, saying I didn't need to drag our professional lives. They can all go to hell for all I care. She told me that she'll probably get fired, AITA, for doing what I did. Wow. I was not expecting the outpour of supportive comments and messages from you. I wasn't even sure if anyone would read my post, but I want to thank everyone for the kind words. It's still hard for me to talk about this, but I'll give you some context. My mother was an only child who inherited everything my grandparents owned. This includes some money and a beach house. She left it to my dad with a request for him to give the money to me. It isn't an extravagant sum, but it's still quite a lot. Dad worked as a banker his whole life and has a great retirement plan in motion. So he had no reason to keep the money. We were going to start the legal process of sorting out the inheritance, but it was supposed to take a few months. And after Mom's death, we had both decided we'll deal with it later. If only I knew what was to come. My best friend knew everything regarding this because, as I've already mentioned, we are very close. I don't know how this has been going on behind my back, but my husband and best friend have been seeing each other for a while. When they found out about the inheritance, they made this plan to convince my dad to temporarily give the money to my husband for safekeeping by saying I cannot be trusted with it. For the last few months, they have been secretly talking to my dad behind my back and convincing him that I'm emotionally unstable and had an alcohol problem. The day I caught them at my dad's house, they even had the papers ready for my dad to sign. I'm absolutely devastated. I've put in a request to work from home and have been living with my dad. My dad is pretty shaken up by everything. He used to see my best friend as a daughter, and this betrayal has been very hard on him. I honestly don't know how to manage my own emotions and take care of him at the same time. Some of you have told me to sue my best friend and husband, but I'm not sure if I'm in the headspace to get into a complicated legal case right now. I'm still pretty much in shock. I'll still talk to a friend of mine who is a lawyer and see what can be done, but as of now, it's unlikely. I just want never to see either of them again and try to move on with my life. I've had a conversation with my husband. It was extremely difficult even to see his face, but I knew it had to be done. At least he had the decency to look ashamed. I told him not to waste my time and tell me everything honestly. Apparently, he and my best friend had feelings for each other for quite some time. When I found out about my mom's death, I went into a depressive phase and spent a few weeks at my dad's place. Apparently, that I went over to my dad's place and lived there for a couple of weeks, and apparently that's when things escalated between them. So there I was, grieving for my mother, while the two people closest to me were betraying me in the worst possible way. I can't even believe what my husband is saying. Who knows? Maybe this has been going on behind my back for years now. My best friend has gone radio silent on me. I hope she's feeling at least a little ashamed about what she has done. I have talked to my lawyer friend, and she said that since my husband and best friend didn't actually steal any money, the legal process might get tedious without amounting to anything much. I agree with her and have decided not to pursue anything like that. What I am planning to do is to get a divorce from my husband as soon as I possibly can, sell our house, move back closer to my dad, and never see those people again. I'm going to file for alimony and get the house, which I think is more than reasonable considering the massive betrayal I've had to face. NTA, I'm so sorry to hear what happened to you, OP. I guess sometimes we can never really tell who people are. I hope you find yourself some better friends and recover from what happened to you. I'm glad you're cutting them off completely from your life, and the fact that you get to be closer to your dad must feel good. Good luck with everything. NTA, in any way, I cannot believe just how terrible your husband and former best friend are. Not only did they cheat, but they also tried to convince your grieving father that his beloved daughter is going through something as serious as an alcohol problem. I can't fathom how twisted and selfish someone has to be in order to do that. I live with my partner in a block of flats, apartments, with rather thin walls and quite a growing number of families as of the last year. I came to find the reason we suddenly had so many moms and babies come through was because it's part of a refugee program. I was pleased as I worried it was mothers of domestic abuse, as I'd never seen any fathers, and the front desk security wouldn't let my partner come in without heavy questioning one time. Fathers seemed to have to sign in at the front desk. So we got a family of mom and daughter, likely 7 years old, move in across from us, while we also had a mom and daughter, same age, move in next to us. Soon, we hear screaming coming from the kid across the hallway. No biggie, as it's a kid and that happens. Mom seems stressed out, but can't blame her, as kids can be hard work. But soon, it's developed into the mother being a million times worse than the kid. Every morning, like clockwork, she screams at her kid and continues it into the hallway at 9 a.m. every day. I work from home and my partner can't get a lie-in on the weekends, so it's been difficult working with it. I eventually opened the door one night and asked her to close hers as she was shouting too loud. She shut her door and I assumed she got the idea. I can hear a lot more than expected. But no, 2 days later, she has me and my partner up at 7 a.m. on a Saturday shouting at her kid again. My partner goes over, and when he knocked, she basically opened it and then closed the door in his face. Then the last resort, with a little less patience, I opened my door one morning after it was loud enough that I couldn't concentrate at work and said, "Please shut your mouth. You can't keep screaming at her like this." I assumed I had pushed it too far and retreated into my flat, feeling rather sheepishly embarrassed for getting that annoyed at her in front of the daughter. This was all last week. Today, she had her welfare checker come around for who knows what. How do I know? She had her door open. I'm trying to work, but then I heard a conversation of the woman saying she was going to report us and that we have been aggressive and we have been complaining about the noise from the kids and how we were unreasonable. The worst part, the welfare lady was agreeing, saying that we likely don't have children and couldn't possibly understand. really emphasizing a motherhood struggle. After this, I opened my door and said, "We have explained time and time again that we forgive you have a child, but not the way you scream at her. It's horrible to listen to, and I believe you treat that child terribly," and closed my door. I was angry and irritated. I'm also not a fan of how I approached that. AITA? This has taken place over a year. Guys, please, I've reported this to child services and the police many times before this. Nothing has been done, and there isn't much more I can do without throwing myself in harm's way. I'm agoraphobic and have experienced child abuse all my young years, so believe me when I say I am really pushing to get this sorted. I'm also shocked by those who have suggested I don't care about the child, have a problem with refugees, and believe people who have suffered at the hand of domestic abuse shouldn't be housed. Actually speechless. I'm terrified too. She reminds me of my abusive mother, and I jump out of my sleep every night and every morning thinking she's made it into my flat. I'm doing as much as I can without taking the daughter out of the flat, which I cannot do for obvious reasons. Report was made to child services. The front desk and I have recorded too. Does anyone have a suggestion for finding out what they're saying in the clips? Cannot find anything online for Vietnamese translation through audio. NTA, from your explanation, it sounds like you did nothing wrong and you are too timid, polite. If I had been through what you and your partner had, I would have told a social worker, a welfare check worker, that she was being verbally abusive to her child on a daily basis and constantly screaming and disturbing the peace. Not only that, but I complained to any authority I could if it continued to infringe on my peaceful habitation of my home and property. NTA, but I might have asked a welfare checker to come in after she finished with them so you could give your side of the story. Yells can escalate and become physical, and you'd want a record of that for the child's safety. So this morning, I got an email from her business teacher saying that my daughter, 15, did not submit any of her assignments, and because of this, he doesn't have enough evidence to give her a grade. He added that he has given her multiple chances in the past, but she did not submit anything, and because he has to submit the report card grade soon, he has no choice but to give her a failing grade for her midterm. When my daughter got home, I asked to follow me to my room, showed her the email, and asked her to explain it. She apologized and gave excuses, such as the fact that she found business to be hard and boring, despite the fact that she wanted to take it and I advised against it many times. I asked her if she could drop business for the rest of the year, and she said it's not possible. I told her that she needed to work on all her missing assignments and submit them as soon as possible for the slight chance that she could get a passing grade for her midterm and overall get higher grades for the end of the school year. She gave me a list of all the assignments that she did not work, and I had her immediately work on them. A few hours later, I heard her talking. I opened the door and I found her talking on her phone with her friends while playing a game on her computer. After she was finished, I asked her to come and bring her phone to me. She asked why, and I told her that she couldn't take any breaks. I told her she had to get her assignments done and she couldn't afford to waste any more of her time than she already did. She begged me to get some time off to do her things and promised that this wouldn't happen again. I was adamant about that and took her phone. I told her if I caught her wasting her time again before finishing her business assignments, I would ground her. She called me the worst and left the room. Now she's crying in her room. I wonder if I was hard on her, but she needs to know that her actions have consequences and that if she wanted to have time playing with her friends, then she shouldn't have failed her class in the first place. NTA, that's parenting. Sometimes we as parents are the absolute worst when we try to get our kids to do what they need to do. The situation she put herself in has made it clear that she doesn't feel the compulsion to do the work and was sitting in her room wasting the limited time she had to work on the backlog of assignments. As a result, her access to her friends' social media games was revoked. Hopefully, that lights a fire under her ass to do the work that should have been done in the first place. NTA, not failing the class, needs to be her priority, not talking on the phone and playing video games. Your daughter created this problem for herself. She needs to fix it. When she goes to university or gets a job, no one is going to hold her hand to get her work done in a timely manner. So it's best she learns the lesson sooner than later.